Today, I want to talk about something that is often misunderstood but deeply powerful: the way high-value women speak to men. A high-value woman is not defined by wealth, status, or beauty. She is defined by self-respect, boundaries, emotional intelligence, and the courage to be authentic. And when she speaks to men, she communicates from a place of strength, clarity, and compassion, not fear, insecurity, or people-pleasing. The words of a high-value woman carry weight because they are rooted in self-awareness and integrity. She knows that her voice is not just a tool to be heard, but a reflection of her worth. Let's explore 5 key principles that guide how such women speak to men. Keynote 1T. Speak with vulnerable courage. A high-value woman does not hide behind a mask of perfection. She is unafraid to show her feelings, even when they make her feel exposed. Instead of demanding or accusing, she says, "This is how I feel, and this is what I need." That takes courage, because vulnerability is the birthplace of trust and connection. When she communicates openly, she creates space for real intimacy instead of shallow performance. Keynote 2E. Speak with respectful boundaries. She does not allow herself to be disrespected, but neither does she belittle others. Her words are firm but kind. She knows how to say no without apology, and she knows how to set limits without anger. When she tells a man, "I value myself too much to accept less than respect," she is teaching through example. Her boundaries are not walls, they are invitations to treat her with honor. Keynote 3D. Speak with emotional honesty. Instead of using manipulation, silence, or passive aggression, she speaks directly and honestly. She does not play games because her worth does not depend on controlling others. If something bothers her, she expresses it clearly. "This matters to me." That level of honesty may feel risky, but it prevents confusion and creates trust. Emotional honesty is not about always being comfortable. It is about always being real. Keynote 4D. Speak with calm strength. A high-value woman knows that power does not come from shouting or controlling. It comes from being centered and calm. Even in conflict, she does not react from fear or ego. She breathes, grounds herself, and chooses her words with intention. By remaining calm, she shows that she is not controlled by chaos. She is in control of herself. Men respect and trust women who embody this steady presence. Keynote 50. Speak with compassion and empathy. At the heart of high-value communication is empathy. She listens as much as she speaks. She acknowledges the feelings of the man before her and speaks in a way that seeks connection, not domination. Compassion is not weakness, it is wisdom. When she says, "I hear you, and I understand where you are coming from," she bridges gaps and builds bonds. Her words carry healing power because they come from the heart. High-value women speak to men in ways that uplift, clarify, and connect. Their words are not meant to impress but to express. They understand that communication is not about winning or losing. It is about being seen and heard without losing oneself. So, to every woman listening, remember that the way you speak is a reflection of the way you see yourself. When you choose courage, boundaries, honesty, calm, and compassion, you are not just speaking to men. You are teaching the world how to treat you. And that is the essence of being truly high value. When we talk about a high-value woman, one of the most powerful qualities she demonstrates is the ability to speak with vulnerable courage. This is not a skill that comes easily, nor is it something that is achieved overnight. It takes self-reflection, resilience, and a deep sense of self-worth to step into vulnerability, because being vulnerable feels risky. It feels like exposure. Yet, it is within this very act of courage that true connection, understanding, and respect are born. To understand vulnerable courage, we must first explore what vulnerability actually means. Vulnerability is often mistaken for weakness, as if showing emotions, admitting needs, or exposing our fears is somehow an admission of failure. But in reality, vulnerability is the clearest expression of strength. It requires more bravery to stand before someone and say, this is who I am, with all my imperfections and needs, than it does to hide behind silence, pretense, or a carefully constructed mask of invulnerability. A high-value woman does not see vulnerability as a liability. She sees it as her bridge to authenticity. When a high-value woman speaks to a man with vulnerable courage, she is not playing games or using manipulation. She is not trying to twist words in order to achieve an outcome. Instead, she is willing to reveal her true feelings in a way that honors both herself and the other person. She might say, "I feel hurt when my efforts go unnoticed," or "I need to feel safe in this relationship." These statements are not designed to control. They are invitations for deeper connection. They acknowledge her emotions without disguising them, and in doing so, they invite trust. A man who hears such words is faced with honesty that calls him to step up, to meet her openness with respect, and to respond with sincerity. Of course, being vulnerable in communication is not without fear. Many people avoid it because of the risk of rejection, misunderstanding, or judgment. A woman who dares to speak openly about what she feels is always taking the chance that her words might not be received with the same care she delivers them. Yet she chooses to risk discomfort because she knows that without vulnerability, there can be no real intimacy. Relationships built on silence, facades, or unspoken expectations eventually collapse under their own weight. Only honesty expressed courageously can form the foundation for something lasting. Another essential aspect of speaking with vulnerable courage is the absence of blame. A high-value woman does not use vulnerability as a weapon. She does not say, "You never care about me," or "You always make me feel unimportant," because such words are drenched in accusation and defense. Instead, she turns inward first and names her own feelings. "I feel unseen when this happens," or "I feel distant when we don't talk about important things." This distinction matters because it keeps the focus on her truth rather than attacking the other person. In doing so, she preserves dignity for both parties. Her courage lies in expressing her truth, not in shaming another. What makes this kind of communication so powerful is that it changes the emotional atmosphere of any conversation. Vulnerable courage disarms defensiveness. It softens walls. It tells the man she is speaking to, "I trust you enough to show you who I really am." That trust is not a small gift. It is the most precious offering one human being can give another. And in many cases, it inspires the same in return. Men who are often taught by society to suppress vulnerability find in her example a new permission, the freedom to speak honestly about their own feelings without fear of ridicule or dismissal. In this way, her vulnerable courage does not just shape her relationships, it shapes the entire dynamic of connection. Yet, it is important to understand that vulnerable courage is not about overshowering or pouring out every feeling without filter. It is not about making another person responsible for fixing or validating emotions. A high-value woman has already done the inner work of knowing herself, which allows her to express her truth responsibly. She does not expect perfection from a man, nor does she expect him to fulfill her every need. Instead, she communicates her feelings as a way of honoring herself and inviting connection, while still holding space for the other person's experience. Her vulnerability is balanced by self-respect. Consider the contrast. A woman who hides her feelings behind silence or sarcasm may avoid immediate conflict, but the result is distance and misunderstanding. A woman who lashes out in anger may feel temporarily powerful, but she erodes trust and closeness. But a woman who says, with calm courage, "I feel sad when we drift apart, and I miss feeling connected to you," is creating a bridge instead of a wall. She risks rejection, but she also opens the door to healing and growth. This is the heart of vulnerable courage. It is a willingness to risk discomfort for the sake of truth and connection. There is also a profound element of dignity in this way of speaking. When a high-value woman chooses vulnerability over manipulation or silence, that she communicates to the world that she values honesty above approval. She would rather risk being misunderstood than pretend to be someone she is not. That choice requires immense strength because it goes against our natural instinct to protect ourselves from hurt. But she understands that true strength is not about avoiding pain. It is about walking through it with integrity. Her dignity lies not in being flawless, but in being real. The impact of speaking with vulnerable courage extends far beyond romantic relationships. It applies to friendships, family bonds, and even professional spaces. When she says to a colleague, "I don't have the answer right now, but I am willing to learn," she models humility and bravery. When she tells a friend, "I need your support right now because I'm struggling," she shows that asking for help is not weakness, but wisdom. Each act of vulnerable speech is an act of leadership. It gives others permission to step into authenticity as well. What makes vulnerable courage so rare is that it requires an ongoing commitment. It is not a one-time choice, but a daily practice. Every conversation presents an opportunity to hide or to reveal, to attack or to connect, to control or to trust. A high-value woman continually chooses the harder but more rewarding path of courage. She does not always get it perfect. Sometimes her words come out messy or her emotions overwhelm her. But even then, her willingness to try again, to repair, and to keep showing up authentically is what sets her apart. At its core, speaking with vulnerable courage is about self-trust. She trusts herself enough to believe that no matter the response, she will be okay. She trusts her own worth so deeply that she does not need to disguise it or shrink it. This inner trust liberates her to communicate with honesty and openness, without the chains of fear holding her back. And that trust, once expressed, becomes magnetic. It draws others to her, not because she seeks validation, but because her presence embodies truth. In the end, the courage to be vulnerable is what makes a high-value woman unforgettable. Her words are not just words, they are expressions of her heart. And because she dares to speak them, she creates bonds that are authentic, resilient, and meaningful. She teaches the men in her life, and indeed, everyone around her, that real strength is not about dominance or perfection. Real strength is about being brave enough to say, "Here I am, this is me, and I choose to share myself with you." One of the most defining characteristics of a high-value woman is her ability to speak with respectful boundaries. Boundaries are not barriers designed to push people away. They are lines that preserve dignity, self-respect, and emotional safety. A woman who knows her worth does not allow herself to be treated poorly. But equally important, she does not diminish others in order to assert herself. When she communicates boundaries, she does so with firmness and clarity, yet always with respect. This balance between strength and compassion is what sets her apart and makes her voice powerful. To speak with respectful boundaries means first that she understands what her values and limits are. She has taken the time to reflect on what behaviors she will welcome and what behaviors she will not tolerate. For example, she might know that honesty is non-negotiable in her relationships, or that kindness and mutual respect must form the foundation of her interactions. Because she is clear about her own standards, she can articulate them directly without confusion. When she says, "I need honesty in this relationship," or "I cannot stay in a space where disrespect is present," she is not threatening or attacking. She is simply communicating the truth of her needs and holding steady to them. A high-value woman does not apologize for her boundaries. She does not water them down to make others more comfortable, nor does she feel guilty for saying no. Many people struggle with setting limits because they fear rejection or disapproval. But she knows that saying no is not cruelty. It is clarity. When she tells a man, "I am not available to talk right now. Let's connect later," She is honoring her own needs while still showing consideration. This balance of firmness and kindness is what keeps her boundaries respectful rather than rigid. Another aspect of speaking with respectful boundaries is the way she refuses to use aggression or hostility as a shield. Some people mistake strong boundaries for harshness, but the two are not the same. Shouting, belittling, or cutting someone off without explanation is not a reflection of strength. It is a reflection of fear. A high-value woman does not need to raise her voice or prove her dominance, because her calm clarity is powerful enough. For instance, if a man speaks to her in a dismissive tone, she might respond with, "I don't appreciate being spoken to this way. Let's continue this conversation when we can both be respectful." Notice that she addresses the issue directly, without insulting or escalating. Her boundaries protect her dignity without stripping anyone else of theirs. Respectful boundaries are also essential in maintaining balance within relationships. Without them, resentment and frustration grow. A woman who never speaks up for herself may feel invisible or taken for granted, while a woman who enforces boundaries with hostility may drive people away. The high-value woman chooses the middle path. She asserts her needs clearly while respecting the humanity of others. This not only strengthens her sense of self, but also creates healthier, more sustainable relationships. Men respect her because they know where they stand with her. There are no hidden resentments or silent expectations, only honesty and clarity. What makes speaking with respectful boundaries so powerful is that it eliminates games and manipulations. Instead of punishing someone with silence, sarcasm, or withdrawal, she communicates her limits openly. For example, if a man continually cancels plans without explanation, she does not respond with passive aggression. Instead, she says, "When you cancel often, it makes me feel unimportant. If this continues, I will need to reconsider how much energy I give this relationship." This kind of statement is not an ultimatum meant to control. It is a boundary expressed with respect. She explains how his behavior affects her and makes it clear what she will and will not accept moving forward. By doing so, she protects her self-worth without attacking the other person's character. It is also worth noting that respectful boundaries are not just about defense. They are also about teaching others how to treat her. Every time she says yes when she means yes, and no when she means no, she reinforces the message that her words carry weight. She is not someone to be taken lightly, nor is she someone who bends endlessly to please others. She teaches men, friends, colleagues, and family members how to value her by modeling how she values herself. And because her boundaries are consistent, others learn to trust her. There is no guessing game. They know that her no means no and her yes means yes. At the same time, speaking with respectful boundaries shows that she respects others as well. She does not demand perfection or expect people to meet her every need. She understands that relationships require compromise, but compromise does not mean erasing oneself. For instance, if a man has different priorities or perspectives, she listens and acknowledges his view, but she does not abandon her own truth to appease him. She can say, "I understand your perspective, but this is still important to me." In this way, she honors both voices without silencing her own. That ability to hold dual respect, both for herself and the other person, is what makes her communication so powerful. The ripple effect of speaking with respectful boundaries extends far beyond the individual conversation. Over time, it fosters deeper trust, because the people around her know she will be truthful, fair, and consistent. They do not have to guess whether she is secretly unhappy or silently resentful, because she will express her needs directly. They also know she will not lash out unfairly, because she chooses calm strength over chaos. This steadiness creates an environment where others feel safe to be honest as well. Her boundaries are not just for her benefit. They cultivate healthier dynamics for everyone involved. It is important to acknowledge, however, that speaking with respectful boundaries is not always easy. It requires ongoing courage and self-discipline. There will be times when saying no feels uncomfortable, or when expressing a limit risks conflict. A high-value woman feels that discomfort but does not run from it. She knows that temporary unease is better than long-term resentment. She would rather risk a difficult conversation than betray herself by staying silent. That choice requires strength, but it also demonstrates the depth of her respect for both herself and the people in her life. Ultimately, speaking with respectful boundaries is about living in alignment with truth. It is about recognizing that love without respect is not real love, and connection without honesty is not true connection. A high-value woman speaks in a way that upholds her dignity while still extending kindness. She does not need to shout to be heard, because her self-respect resonates louder than any raised voice could. She does not need to belittle others to prove her strength, because her boundaries speak for her. In the end, what makes her communication unforgettable is not only what she says but how she says it. Her voice carries firmness without cruelty, clarity without rigidity, and compassion without self-abandonment. When she speaks to men, or to anyone, her words embody the message, "I respect myself, and I respect you. This is where I stand, and this is how I choose to be treated." When we speak of a high-value woman, one of her most transformative traits is her ability to communicate with emotional honesty. This quality is not about sharing every thought or revealing every detail of her inner world indiscriminately. Rather, it is about choosing authenticity over manipulation, clarity over games, and truth over silence. Emotional honesty requires courage, because it often demands revealing feelings that could make her vulnerable to rejection or misunderstanding. Yet this honesty is the very foundation upon which trust and intimacy are built. Many people, out of fear, avoid speaking honestly about their emotions. They may resort to masks, pretending to be unaffected when they are hurt, or to manipulation, trying to indirectly get what they want without naming it. Some use passive aggression, silence, or exaggerated performances to express feelings they cannot articulate directly. These strategies may offer temporary protection, but they erode relationships over time. A high-value woman chooses a different path. She understands that true respect and real connection cannot exist without honesty. She does not disguise her feelings behind manipulation, nor does she bury them in silence. Instead, she finds the strength to say, "This is how I feel, and this is why it matters." Emotional honesty begins with self-awareness. A woman cannot express what she does not understand. Before speaking, she turns inward and reflects on her own emotions. What am I really feeling right now? Is it anger, or is it hurt beneath the anger? Is it frustration, or is it disappointment? This self-inquiry allows her to speak with clarity instead of lashing out impulsively. When she approaches a man, she does not attack his character. She communicates the truth of her experience. She might say, "I felt hurt when I wasn't included," rather than, "You don't care about me." The first statement is honest and vulnerable. The second is an accusation that pushes people away. Her honesty is therefore not only about expressing feelings, but expressing them responsibly. Another important dimension of emotional honesty is consistency. A high-value woman's words align with her feelings and actions. She does not say, "I'm fine," when she is clearly not, nor does she pretend to be unaffected when something deeply bothers her. This alignment builds trust, because those around her know she means what she says. In contrast, inconsistency breeds confusion. When someone says one thing but feels another, relationships become tangled in miscommunication and mistrust. A woman who values honesty refuses to play those games. Her integrity is evident in her congruence. What she says matches what she feels, and what she feels matches how she behaves. Of course, emotional honesty does not mean being harsh or unfiltered. Some people mistake bluntness for honesty, but cruel words that cut others down are not the same as truthful communication. Honesty can be delivered with kindness. A high-value woman knows this balance. If she is dissatisfied, she does not lash out with words designed to wound. Instead, she chooses language that expresses her feelings without stripping the other person of dignity. For instance, instead of saying, "You never do anything right," she might say, "I feel stressed when I have to handle everything alone, and I would appreciate your support." Both statements reveal discontent, but only the second preserves respect and opens the door to resolution. The beauty of emotional honesty is that it deepens connection. When she expresses her feelings openly, she invites the man in her life to know her more fully. He does not have to guess at what is happening inside her. She trusts him enough to share it. That trust is a gift, and in many cases it inspires reciprocity. Men who are not used to emotional expression often find safety in her example. They realize that they too can share their fears, needs, or dreams without being judged. In this way, her honesty transforms the dynamic between them. Instead of a relationship built on assumptions or unspoken resentment, they cultivate a partnership grounded in clarity and openness. Emotional honesty also frees her from the weight of unspoken truths. Many people carry silent resentments, stacking them like stones until the relationship becomes heavy and strained. But the high-value woman refuses to accumulate that hidden burden. She addresses issues as they arise, not with aggression, but with directness. If something bothers her, she speaks it calmly. "I need more time together to feel close," or "I feel distant when we don't communicate." By voicing her needs, she prevents them from festering into bitterness. This practice not only protects her relationships, but also safeguards her own emotional well-being. There is a profound strength in being emotionally honest, even when it risks conflict. Silence may feel safer in the moment, but it often leads to distance. Dishonesty may seem easier, but it eventually collapses under its own weight. A high-value woman embraces the discomfort of difficult conversations because she knows that the only way forward is through truth. She does not hide behind avoidance, nor does she settle for shallow harmony at the cost of authenticity. Her honesty may not always bring immediate agreement, but it always brings clarity. And clarity, even when uncomfortable, is a form of respect. Speaking with emotional honesty also means taking responsibility for her own feelings. She does not blame others for every emotion she experiences. Instead, she acknowledges that her feelings are hers to understand and communicate. When she speaks, she uses ownership language. "I feel, I need, I value." This approach avoids accusations and instead invites collaboration. For example, she might say, "I feel unsupported when decisions are made without me," rather than, "You make me feel useless." The first statement opens the door for dialogue. The second closes it with blame. Her honesty empowers both herself and the other person to address the issue constructively. It is also worth noting that emotional honesty does not guarantee a perfect outcome. Sometimes, even when she speaks with clarity and sincerity, the other person may not respond with understanding. But the high-value woman does not let this deter her. She knows that honesty is not about controlling another's response. It is about honoring her own truth. She would rather risk rejection while being authentic than gain approval through pretense. That choice reflects her self-respect and her commitment to living in alignment with her values. Ultimately, emotional honesty is liberating. It frees her from the exhausting labor of maintaining facades, from the resentment of suppressed needs, and from the confusion of mixed signals. It allows her to walk in relationships with confidence, knowing that she has expressed herself fully and clearly. And even if challenges arise, she can meet them with the assurance that she is living authentically. In the end, what makes a high-value woman unforgettable is not only her ability to love or to nurture, but her ability to stand firmly in her truth. Her emotional honesty gives her words weight and her presence depth. She speaks not to manipulate, not to control, but to express herself with integrity. In doing so, she builds connections that are real, resilient, and deeply fulfilling. When she tells a man, "This is what I feel, this is what I need, and this is who I am," she is not just calm strength is one of the most striking qualities of a high-value woman, and it profoundly influences the way she communicates with men. Unlike reactive anger or frantic defensiveness, calm strength is the quiet, steady confidence that radiates from within. It does not seek to dominate or belittle, but neither does it allow disrespect or dishonor. It is a posture of self-respect, dignity, and composure that creates an atmosphere of mutual respect. When a high-value woman speaks from this place, her words carry power not because they are loud or aggressive, but because they are measured, intentional, and anchored in her unwavering sense of worth. Men and women alike are naturally drawn to those who embody calm strength. This is because calmness signals control and strength signals resilience. Together, they form a communication style that feels safe yet authoritative. A high-value woman knows that raising her voice or lashing out in anger may release temporary tension, but it rarely builds connection or fosters understanding. Instead, she chooses to pause, breathe, and respond thoughtfully. Her calmness diffuses conflict rather than escalating it. A man in her presence feels her stability. He knows that even in disagreement, she will not spiral into chaos or destruction. That reliability is a form of emotional leadership. To communicate with calm strength requires discipline. It is not easy to remain composed when emotions run high or when someone tests your patience. Yet the high-value woman refuses to surrender control of her words and actions to anger or frustration. She recognizes that every word she speaks either strengthens the bridge between herself and the man she is addressing, or begins to burn it. With this awareness, she weighs her words carefully. She does not rush to respond, nor does she allow impulsive emotions to dictate her tone. She speaks with clarity and self-control, which makes her words resonate more deeply. Calm strength also means she does not fear silence. Many people fill silence with nervous chatter or defensive arguments, believing that silence signals weakness. But a high-value woman knows silence can be more powerful than words. When she is disrespected, she does not need to shout. Her composed silence speaks louder than anger, and it leaves space for the other person to reflect on their behavior. If she chooses to speak, her words are deliberate and unshakable. Silence, in her case, is not avoidance, it is the quiet demonstration of strength and self-respect. Another defining aspect of calm strength is the refusal to be manipulated. When a man tries to provoke her with anger, guilt, or pressure, she does not react in predictable ways. She does not raise her voice to meet his, nor does she fold under emotional pressure. Instead, she remains steady, grounded in her own sense of value. She communicates with firmness. "I hear what you're saying, but this is where I stand." There is no aggression in her tone, yet her words make it clear she cannot be swayed by fear or control. This composure not only protects her from being diminished, but also teaches others how to engage with her. With respect, not domination. Calm strength also gives her presence authority. A man can sense when a woman is desperate for approval or validation, and it undermines the weight of her words. But a woman who speaks from calm strength does not beg to be heard or agreed with. She simply states her truth with clarity and dignity. Her confidence is evident in her restraint. She does not need to over-explain, over-justify, or dramatize her point. She knows that truth, when spoken with composure, needs no excessive defense. This quiet confidence compels men to listen, because they sense they are not merely hearing an argument, they are encountering conviction. When disagreements arise, calm strength is her greatest ally. Arguments fueled by anger often spiral into hurtful words that cannot be taken back. But a high-value woman avoids this cycle by grounding herself before responding. She listens fully, acknowledges what she hears, and then speaks with balance. If she disagrees, she communicates it without hostility. I see your perspective, but I cannot agree because. This approach does not fuel conflict but invites resolution. Even when resolution is not possible, her calm strength ensures the conversation ends with dignity, not destruction. Men often find this approach disarming because it shifts the tone from confrontation to respectful dialogue. Calm strength also influences the way she sets boundaries. She does not scream or demand compliance when her limits are crossed. Instead, she states her boundaries clearly and consistently. For example, if a man speaks to her disrespectfully, she does not retaliate with equal disrespect. She simply responds, "I will not continue this conversation if I am spoken to that way." Then she follows through with action. This calm but firm stance communicates that her boundaries are non-negotiable, and it leaves no room for confusion. Her ability to enforce limits without hostility makes her boundaries more respected, because they are seen not as emotional outbursts, but as principled positions. Moreover, calm strength reflects emotional maturity. A high-value woman does not allow temporary feelings to dictate permanent decisions. When she feels hurt, she acknowledges it but does not let it control her words. When she feels angry, she processes it before responding. This maturity allows her to navigate even tense situations with grace. Men notice this composure because it contrasts with the chaos that often emerges in emotionally charged interactions. Her steadiness makes her a safe presence, someone who can be trusted to respond with reason rather than impulsiveness. There is also a deep dignity in calm strength. A woman who embodies this quality refuses to compromise her values or self-respect for approval. If a man dismisses her, mocks her, or tries to diminish her, she does not retaliate with insults or theatrics. Instead, she maintains her composure and removes herself from the situation if necessary. Her calm exit is often more powerful than any heated retort, because it demonstrates that she values herself too highly to remain in a space of disrespect. Her dignity speaks volumes. She will not lower herself to chaos, because her strength lies in composure. Calm strength also inspires trust. Men who encounter a woman who can stay grounded in moments of tension feel safe with her, because they know she is not volatile or unpredictable. Her steadiness assures them that they can face challenges together without collapsing into unnecessary drama. This does not mean she suppresses her emotions. On the contrary, she feels deeply, but her strength ensures she channels those emotions with intentionality rather than recklessness. Trust grows in this environment because both people know that even in storms, her voice will remain steady. Ultimately, calm strength elevates her presence in every interaction. She does not demand respect. She commands it through her composure. Her words carry weight not because she speaks the loudest, but because she speaks with clarity, confidence, and control. Her calmness makes her approachable, while her strength makes her unshakable. This balance is rare and magnetic because it embodies the union of gentleness and power. In the end, when a high-value woman speaks with calm strength, she communicates more than her message. She communicates her character. She demonstrates that her worth is not dependent on chaos, that her voice does not need to compete with noise, and that her dignity will never be compromised. Men may forget the exact words she spoke, but they will never forget how her composure made them feel, respected, challenged, and drawn to rise to her level. Calm strength is not about being silent, nor about being domineering. It is about embodying the kind of respectful boundaries are a defining feature of how a high-value woman communicates with men, and they are one of the clearest indicators of her self-worth. Boundaries are not about control, punishment, or manipulation. They are about self-respect and clarity. When a high-value woman speaks, She does not leave men guessing about what is acceptable and what is not. She communicates her standards clearly, calmly, and without apology. This ability to honor herself through boundaries transforms the dynamics of her relationships, because it teaches others how to treat her and makes space for authentic, balanced connection. Many women, out of fear of losing affection or approval, hesitate to set boundaries. They may tolerate disrespect, accept neglect, or remain silent in situations that violate their values. Over time, this silence breeds resentment and erodes self-esteem. A high-value woman refuses to let fear dictate her limits. She understands that boundaries are not walls that shut people out, but bridges that allow safe and respectful interaction. By defining what is acceptable, she actually strengthens the connection, because both she and the man know where they stand. Without this clarity, relationships often fall into chaos or manipulation. The way she communicates boundaries is what sets her apart. A high-value woman does not scream, threaten, or dramatize. Instead, she speaks with calm certainty. For example, if a man raises his voice at her, she may respond, "I will not continue this conversation if I am shouted at." There is no hostility in her tone, only firmness. Her words make her position clear, and her actions back it up. If the behavior continues, she steps away. By aligning her words with her actions, she demonstrates that her boundaries are not empty statements, but principles she lives by. Men quickly learn that she cannot be manipulated into abandoning her standards. Boundaries also communicate self-respect. When a woman consistently enforces her limits, she sends the message that her time, energy, and well-being are valuable. This inspires respect from men, because people naturally respect those who respect themselves. If she allows herself to be mistreated or consistently overlooked, it signals that her value can be disregarded. But when she speaks firmly and consistently about what she will and will not accept, she shows that her self-worth is not negotiable. Men may not always like her boundaries, but they will respect them. And those who refuse to respect them naturally disqualify themselves from a place in her life. Boundaries also protect intimacy. It may seem paradoxical, but real closeness cannot exist without limits. If a woman sacrifices her values to maintain harmony, the relationship becomes built on pretense rather than authenticity. A high-value woman knows this, and she recognizes that saying no at the right times is just as important as saying yes. Her no is not rejection, it is clarity. By drawing clear lines, she creates space for trust, because the man knows she is not acting out of fear or compliance, but out of choice. Her boundaries ensure that when she gives her time, her energy, or her love, it is real and intentional, not coerced. One of the most powerful aspects of her boundaries is that they are consistent across contexts. She does not enforce them only when convenient, nor does she shift them based on who she is speaking to. Whether with a romantic partner, a colleague, or a friend, her standards remain steady. This consistency builds a reputation of reliability. Men know that what she says can be trusted, because she will follow through. Her boundaries are not weapons used selectively. They are guiding principles that shape her entire way of being. This makes her communication clear, predictable, and trustworthy. Another element of boundaries is that they are communicated respectfully. Some people set limits in ways that are hostile or demeaning, which may enforce compliance but destroy respect. A high-value woman avoids this trap. She does not belittle or shame men when expressing her needs. She frames her boundaries in terms of her own values. I value honesty, so I cannot continue if there is dishonesty between us. Or, I need consistency to feel secure, so I cannot invest deeply if I feel neglected. These statements are firm but respectful. They communicate her standards without attacking the other person's character. This style of communication not only sets limits, but also leaves room for growth and dialogue. Boundaries also require courage. It is easier to remain silent than to risk conflict, and easier to compromise than to risk rejection. But a high-value woman embraces the discomfort of setting boundaries because she knows it is the only way to maintain her self-respect. Even if her boundaries cause some men to walk away, she does not see this as a loss. She sees it as alignment. Those unwilling to honor her standards simply make room for those who will. In this way, her boundaries act as a filter, ensuring that only men who respect her worth remain close. At the same time, she understands that boundaries are not rigid walls. They are flexible enough to allow negotiation and understanding, but firm enough to protect her values. If a man unintentionally crosses a line, she addresses it directly and gives him the opportunity to correct it. If he repeatedly crosses it despite her clarity, she withdraws. This balance of firmness and grace ensures that her boundaries are not about punishing mistakes, but about creating healthy patterns of respect. Men who engage with her in good faith often rise to her standards, because they recognize that her boundaries are not meant to push them away, but to create a better space for connection. Ultimately, respectful boundaries elevate the way she speaks to men. Her words are clear, her tone is steady, and her actions are consistent. She does not compromise her values for approval, nor does she demand respect through force. Instead, she commands it through clarity and dignity. Men who encounter her boundaries learn quickly that they are not dealing with someone who can be swayed by flattery, fear, or pressure. They are dealing with a woman who knows her worth and communicates it without apology.